From Tayami Media, you're listening to Be Bold and Everywhere.
Happy Halloween, everybody. Welcome back to Be Bold and Everywhere. This is episode 6. It is Halloween afternoon, October 31st, 2022. But it is a Monday, so that means we're at work. And I wanted to jump in here to answer the biggest question that I've been receiving. And from the research that I've been doing lately, it seems to be the step that is most overlooked and yet also the most important step in any content marketing solution that you're either trying to adopt or trying to provide, depending on your side of the business equation. But that is understanding your audience in a both qualitative and quantitative way, which requires research, both on the audience side and on the market side. We talked about this in another episode in the step-by-step content strategy. Step number 1, it has to be. This is the step that is most overlooked, and somehow it's still overlooked even today. The importance of it has always been known. It's been conducted for a long, long time. I mean, I think one of the main advantages of a media agency in the legacy era was the ability to conduct these types of research, and this type of research still happens all the time. But just buying like a market research paper may not be appropriate for this kind of a solution. Since we're really talking about the marketing angle, and you're going to have some overlap here, depending on the campaign or the goals of that campaign. But I just wanted to kind of dive in and give some easy ways where you can just sort of begin to adopt this without derailing your entire workflow. But if you do this, if you conduct this research part, you actually go through the steps, you will notice a significant change in the outcomes that you're producing with your content. So what do we mean by market research and audience research? And I'd like to differentiate these because it's easier if you bucket them. Understanding your audience. I was looking through some different forums and I was asking the question, what's the top 5 things you would tell to a new content creator, new social media marketer, someone that you just hired in a position, what's the top 5 things they need to focus on and learn? And there's a lot of responses, but number 1 is understand the audience. It's going to save you so much time, so much money, and it's going to make those results come in. So how do we begin this? Well, back in the day, the way that you could conduct this kind of audience research was mainly through focus groups and conducting surveys to gather all this kind of information, and then you could qualify it, or you could look at sales reports, you could look at all of these patterns to try to identify a brand persona or a customer persona in this respect. And those things are still conducted. When I was in college, I took part in a couple of free lunch style surveys. I think one was for, it was either a deodorant or a laundry detergent, something like that. Now, are those results going to be, 100% accurate? No. I mean, it's very difficult to get 100% accurate data in any scenario. But the way that I like to approach it is a lot more cost effective. It's a lot faster. It doesn't involve gathering a lot of test subjects or anything like that, because we live in the age of the internet and the age of social media where people are very transparent, and you can simply use social media platforms and search engines to uncover all of the data you need to start this process. And if you follow these steps, you're going to be well on your way. So when you first want to begin identifying the audience, you should go to your existing data. And a lot of companies will have at least some idea when you ask them the question, what is your average buyer like? And we're talking about breaking this down into demographics. Depending on the company, it could be geographics and then psychographics. That's where things get a little trickier. But building the demographic part, I like to use the driver's license example. So if you got a whiteboard or if you have something, just draw a driver's license and we're going to fill out all of that information with that buyer persona. And you should base this on preferably the top 20% of buyers that are frequent customers. But you may not know that. You may not have the data to fully get down to that number. So just go with your impression or talk to your salespeople. Ask them, who are these people? What are they like? And we can get down to the nitty gritty. You're going to start with the classic ASL. If anybody's been in chat rooms back in the day, it's age, sex, location. And this can obviously be a range, but we're going to use an average after we plot out. Try to get as many as you can, but ideally at least 5 different age options. And we're going to plot that out. Genders, same way. Locations, even if you're a local business, try to narrow these down to specific neighborhoods. Down to specific streets if you can, depending on the type of data that you have from your customers. But you want to fill this all out. And I would even go so far as to say, if you can, get all of that little information that means nothing, like hair color, eye color, average height, average weight. These things are superfluous, but it's going to force you to go deeper. And that's really the point here. Because this whole topic, market research in general, or just research at all, it is tedious, it is time consuming. And this is why it's always skipped, because it's not fun, it's not creative. And typically, marketing as a field attracts creative minds. And so when they're forced into this research role, it's not a good fit and it tends to not produce the best results. But I promise you, as a creative, this will make your job easier and you're going to be able to be more creative as a result, which is the whole point, right? So once you have your basic demographic data down, we're going to go into psychographic data. Now, what is psychographic data? These are things that make up the buyer persona's personality traits. And a personality has a lot of different factors. This goes into psychology. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or anything, so you can look that up, spend your time researching. But if we break it down, it really comes down to their behaviors, their beliefs, their interests, their lifestyles, social status, and their dislikes. This is one that is frequently left off a lot of lists, but I think it's important. It might be hard to find that out, but we're going to go through some ways where you might be able to do that. And then, of course, things like the average income, the types of things they already own. And you might be asking yourself, well, how am I going to find all of this information? Am I going to call them and ask them what kind of car they drive? Am I going to ask them how much they weigh? I can't do that. No, obviously not. But as I said, in the modern internet era, we no longer need to send out survey teams to collect this kind of data. When I was working for a publishing house, my job was to call up all of these various different companies and campsites that were going to be included in this directory, and I had to run down the entire list of survey questions with every single one. Now, we don't need to do that because we have the internet. So if you already have content out there, specifically on social media sites like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, things of that nature, you can begin this research with the people that are already engaging with your content. Now, this is going to be a surface level kind of a study because these people are not your customers. What we're trying to find is a cross section. So if you go to something like Facebook and you can see the people that have liked your content, then you go to their profiles. You're going to find a lot of stuff out, unless it's a private profile, which a lot of people are more private these days anyway. But it doesn't hurt to just shoot them a friend request. Just shoot them a friend request. If you want them to be your customer, why would you not want to be their friend? Or if you don't want to do it, have somebody else do it. But get that friend request in there and get access to that information. I'll pull up Facebook now and we'll just look through a little profile real quick. I won't show it on screen just for privacy, but let's just go to a profile here and see the kind of information that we can just get at a glance right off the home page. So you have their intro, you have their job, you have where they work, you have where they used to work, you have where they went to high school, you have what city they live in, you have, are they in a relationship, how many people follow them, how many people are they friends with. You got all that information in 10 seconds, right in the beginning here. Then as soon as you start scrolling through their posts, scrolling through their photos, now you're going to start to see all sorts of things. You're going to start to see what kind of activities that they like to do, especially ones that they like to show people that they are doing. You're going to see the types of things they share, the types of things they find funny, the types of things they are interested in, some of their big life events. You're going to find out all this information. You can really find out a whole lot about a person just on this Facebook profile page. And we haven't even clicked on the About. Let's click on the About. See what we can find here. Yep, all the information I need, all the work history, all the education history, all the places that they've lived. Sometimes all their contact info. Right here. Yeah, I got his birthday. I got his gender. I have all the languages that he speaks, his religious views, his political affiliations. I now have his Skype. I could hit him up on Skype right there. I see his family members. Details. All that right here. Does this sound creepy? Does this sound creepy? It is, isn't it? This is the power of social media when it's used for this function. And we used to do this back in the music days all the time, because these are the kinds of things that you want to know no matter what field you're in. If you are marketing something, you have to know your audience. And the more data you can gather, if you could take all of this information, put it into a spreadsheet, and repeat this process with 99 more people, if they fit that original criteria, you would have a pretty good idea, right? Now, these are people that just have liked your content. So that does not necessarily mean that they are customers. It does not necessarily mean they're even in your market. They might have just appreciated the content. They might like the idea, but that's not helpful. So what you really would preferably want to do is create an attribution model where you collect data on a sale that provides links to their social media. We're always asking for everyone's email, we're asking for their phone number, we're asking for this, but we're not asking for their Instagram handle. We're not asking for their name on Facebook. And for most people, the name on Facebook is the same, but that's not always the case. And what if there's multiple people with the same name? I mean, I'll tell you right now, you search Mike Heffron on Facebook, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I can keep scrolling down. There's a lot of Mike Heffrons in the world. So that's not good enough. You want preferably their exact Facebook URL, Instagram handle, LinkedIn profile. Same way. I know we're all big LinkedIn fans here now, right? We've adopted to the LinkedIn lifestyle. And you can find a lot of this information on LinkedIn, but not on the same personal level. And that's where the psychographics we mentioned before are not really as available on LinkedIn. Some people use LinkedIn as a pretty personal messaging, social media type of board, but most of the time you're just going to find out their job titles, the things they're interested in, the kind of things they're sharing, or at least the kind of things that they want people to think that they are sharing or reading or interested in, all of the above. Sometimes they're being dictated on high what to post on their LinkedIn, so it might not even be coming out of their mind. That's a problem. So as great as LinkedIn is, especially finding out things like education history, work history, perhaps making an assessment on average income and things of that nature, I prefer to go the more personal route. Now, not everybody is on social media, and that's fine. But I'm a big believer that almost everybody is online. So if you can't find your customer on social media, which you can, just saying that now, I'm going to give you another step, but basically, if you want to really get that entire persona built out, you can do so very easily just using social media. You just got to spend a little time playing CIA. Get in there, pretend you're on an FBI show. gather all of that information, screenshot their photos. There's nothing wrong with this. It's public information. You're not using it to harm them. You're not spamming them, right? That doesn't work anyway. I don't know why you would do that. And plus, these are preferably people that have already purchased. Or if you're creating some sort of like hyper-targeted campaign, if you know all of their information and you just dump that into your Facebook ad criteria, hyper-located onto where you know they exactly are, your odds of reaching them become pretty high. So, you can do that even as a prank if you really want to spend the kind of money to do that. But another great resource you can use is good old Google. Fantastic search engine. I think we've all heard of it. And this is where things get a little more broad, but you can use them to sort of define the problem, which in a lot of cases in content creation, knowing the person is one side, because you have to sort of craft things around how they're going to take in the content, but you have to understand the problem that they're trying to solve, and you are providing the solution. Right? This is more for advertising sense, but as we mentioned in the content step by step, you ask your famous 5 questions: the what, where, when, why, how, and then you're going to frame the solution around that problem. So say your industry is plumbing, right? And you could ask, why is my water heater? And then stop. Hands up. Go ahead and read all of the auto responses that just got filled out here. So we got, why is my water heater leaking? Why is it making noise? Why is it not working? Why is it leaking from the bottom? Why is it beeping? Why is it leaking from the top? Why is it hissing? Why is it whistling? Why is it making a knocking noise? Why is it popping? These are all things that people are searching about water heaters. And I don't know if that's a plumbing thing or not, but let's say your business is water heaters. And now you have right here 10 different pieces of content that you can make to answer that exact question. Because if they went ahead and searched, why is my water heater making noise? You can be the answer. If you play a little bit. Either way, if someone's asking that on Google and it's such a high search volume that it's coming up in those top results, odds are a lot of people are wondering that, have encountered that, or when they do encounter it, your content will already be proven and in place to answer that. And right here we have some videos already up. Is your water heater making these sounds? Are water heaters supposed to make noise? How to stop the popping in your water heater? And this is one guy here. He's making content. Roger Wakefield. Shout out Roger Wakefield. See? Never would have found him, but now I did. Just off that. So that's how you can understand some of the problems that your target audience may be facing in your specific market. And you can use that to position the ways that you're bringing them into that funnel. In the same way, you can go to Amazon.com. You can go to YouTube.com. Repeat the same exact process. See what kinds of things are coming up. And you'll understand not only who your audience is, but what your market is asking for. Because that's really the whole point here, is to be providing the solution and be providing it in the most targeted, niche way possible. Because it's a big world. There's a lot of competition out here. So now let's separate this. So everything we just talked about is audience understanding. We're understanding the audience themselves. Now let's turn around and move it into the market. Because the market is not just you and your customers. The market is you, your customers, all of your competitors in your market, and all of the competitors offering an alternative solution to your market. Things just got a little bigger, right? And we can repeat the same type of process using this side. Because if we go back to our water heaters, so if we say, why is my water heater leaking? And right here, we can see some options that pop up. These are going to be your competitors if you're a water heater. So then you just go ahead and repeat that same sort of deep dive research that we already did. And you can do that on your competitors. So let's take it over to Facebook. I'm going to take this plumbing company that I just found. I'm going to pop that into Facebook. I know this might sound funny to some of you guys because Facebook is such a pariah in the social media marketing space. It's basically only ads, right? You're not wrong. It basically is. But it still has a lot of great information. And one thing Facebook does better than any other social media platform, even to right now, is events. If you're doing events, that's the reason why you would really want to focus on your Facebook position, your network on there. Outside of friends, talking professional. So now, here we go. Facebook page. We can see the likes. We can see the group that owns the page. We can see where they're located. We can see the website. We can see the type of content they post. We can see how much engagement they get. And more importantly, we can see all of the people that engage with that content. So now you can replicate that audience research that you did on your own audience and do that on your competitors' pages. Especially if it's a competitor that's directly offering it. But that doesn't, as I said, repeat this per every step. So do this even to people that are engaging with content from competitors that are offering an alternative solution, because you can still create a little diversion in that demand back to you if you target it right. That's why we're trying to understand. There's only one problem being solved. There's just a lot of different options. How do you become the only option? So marketing and positioning and branding is all about. So they're a typical business Facebook page, averaging, pretty low amounts of engagement because, it's kind of just the way it works. But still pretty consistent, very, very branded, got a lot of different types of content. Yeah. Whoever they hired to do this is doing just fine. Even getting some nice shares out and all that. Very cool. So there is another portion here. Let me see if I can try to find it on here. So yeah, this is the page transparency section of a Facebook page. And in the page transparency section, you're able to see all of the nitty gritty. Because I guess that's part of legality, which is great for us as market researchers. So you can find out the exact LLC that your competitor is, where that's registered, where that's located, if it's a parent company or if it's a group of something like that. You can see the history of their page, when it was created, if their name was changed. You can see the number of people who manage the pages. And most importantly, you can see the ads that your competitors are running. So right now, this specific plumbing company is running ads and has previously run ads about social issues, elections, or politics. Very tricky, very tricky. And so you can just go to ad library. Just click on this here. I'm going to make a YouTube video about this and I'll actually visually walk this through. But if you're just listening, you can, rewind this and take these steps or just pop some notes down. It's fairly easy. We're not talking about coding here or anything. It's just a couple clicks and you're going to take a look. And right here, I'm just looking at their ad results. They have 5 active ad campaigns right here. Actually, 2 just started running today on Facebook and Instagram, and these are Halloween related. Makes sense, right? We also have one that started running at the beginning of this month, and then one that was launched 2 years ago. It was a big one right there. So the longer an ad has been active, the more likely that it's working in that market, right? Because otherwise they would have turned it off. They would have repositioned it. So you can analyze that specific ad, the type of positioning, the type of brand personality that's being exuded, the type of person that they are speaking to. Hopefully it's not just super duper generic, but even if it is, you can kind of see how people are responding to it, the colors, feedback, all those kind of things. So this one is very simple. It's pretty much it's something you would see on a print ad just running on Facebook, which is not totally uncommon and not necessarily bad. Not super creative, but you know what? Some fields don't need a ton of creativity to just keep the lights on, right? Are you going to grow off that? Yeah, probably not. But different goals for different folks. And then you got their website right here. And you can kind of see on their website the way that they are positioning this. Where are their calls to action? What kind of contact information are they offering? Where is it? What kind of different services are they providing? See, we got a coupon right here. We got a chat bot, which I hate, but that's more a me problem, not a you problem. Maybe chatbots are great for you guys, right? Newsletters, different ways to keep people in that funnel. They are on all sorts of social media. They got Pinterest on here. See what kind of pins is this plumbing company posting up. We got blog posts. We got client reviews in a graphical format. Got a good bit of them here. Creative. Not a lot of following, but whoever they hired to do their social media is covering all their bases, keeping it consistent. That's the best you can hope for on these type of platforms right here. So there's just a few ways that you can immediately operate an audience research and a market research strategy. Pull that in as step one to any campaign you're building. This is pre-creative idea. So any creative ideas that you had prior to this research, you need to stick it on the side. And unless that research and that idea align, that idea needs to go in the garbage. Put it down the garbage disposal. Because even though it sounds great to you and it'd be really fun, if it doesn't align with that audience and that market research, I'm sorry. It's just not going to work. And I know as a video creator myself, there's been many times where I would have just absolutely loved to do something totally creative, totally out of the box and over the top for something like a plumbing company even, Unfortunately, if that market just, the audience is not people that watch films. The audience is people whose water heaters are leaking, right? So as cool as it sounds and as creative and as fun as it would be and potentially viral or anything like that, if it doesn't line up with the audience in the market, just don't do it. Don't take the gamble. Because the whole purpose here is to keep your job, is to do consistent, high quality work. Just the way it is. So make that step one of all of your stuff. And you can do this outside of content creation. This is mainly for content marketing, but you can do this as a musician. You can do this as an artist. You can do this just as a small business owner yourself. Knowledge is power. And the more you know, the more power you'll have to make the right decisions, which is really what it's all about, right? Would you rather know the path or would you rather try to fumble your way through it in the dark? What's easier when you're going through the woods? A nice path or just walking aimlessly? Which one's more likely to get you lost? Yeah, right. So, we can go through a couple more things before we move on here. Because psychographics is a fascinating subject all in itself. And it can be hard when you're trying to plot this out, especially when you're looking through something like a Facebook page. What exactly the psychographics you're looking for are, and what they could equate to. Let's go to another random profile here and just sort of see what we can find, because people are very complicated. But that's our job, is to provide solutions to all of these complicated people to solve our own complications. And no matter who a person is, they're going to have pain points and they're going to have desires in their life. And you can choose which one you want to go, preferably both. It's a sort of classic sales technique, is identifying those pain points so that you can provide the solution for that. And this audience market research is essentially identifying those pain points prior to a personal conversation ever even occurring or ever needing to occur. Ideally, you know the pain points and the desires so well that simply through a combination of paid and organic content, you've already completed a sales process and they're ready to just click buy. And if you're a DTC brand, then that is the case. That has to happen. You have to solve all of that without speaking to them, without leading them through some kind of rapport building cadence. You want to release content that builds trust, identifies that you know that you, let's say you just have a relevant solution. Because we've already touched on the fact that you're not going to be the only solution, but you want to be the most relevant solution to them. Bring them in. Depending on your price tag, this could be a long process, short process. No telling. Ain't no telling. But looking through this profile here, this gentleman, seems like he likes animals. He is a fan of, looks like the military. Likes jazz. Looks like jazz music. So see what I meant by complicated? You wouldn't just assume that this kind of person would even exist, right? Until you actually look. You'll find some amazing things. There's always going to be outliers on data, but we're not here to solve world hunger, all right? We're here to simply increase our marketing success chances. So don't feel like you need to really have every single piece figured out. What you want is the best possible idea. And if you end up loving this and you want to really dive in and go deep, you're going to be rewarded for it. I mean, there's a reason why buying these kind of research papers is very expensive, because it takes a lot of time. But this is why I also recommend doing it yourself, because there's the big broad data. Like if you look up like social media platform demographics, just, to get a breakdown here. There's all kinds of these cheat sheets. You can look it up anytime, and we can look at just Facebook demographics and usage. So it looks like we got number of monthly active users, 2.9 billion, with the largest age group being 25 to 34. But this only makes up 31.5% of Facebook users. So while it says it's the largest age group, which percentage-wise it technically is, it's definitely not the grand majority, like over 50% of the users, right? Gender breaks down to 43% female, 57% male, average time spent of 33 minutes per day. So if we, let's dig into Statista here and just kind of break that down. Yeah, it looks like males age 25 to 34, making up 18.4 total percent of Facebook. Now, if I was trying to target males age 25, Facebook would not be where I would try to target them. Unless it's an event. See, there's a lot of different things here. But just using these big overall statistics that you can already just sort of glean from, I mean, it can give you the right beginning signals, but really until you go in and repeat that process that we just went through, where you actually see the data in front of your face, you log it down, you look at it real big and bold, put it on a wall with red string and push pins and whatever you need to do to get the perfect idea of your buyer persona. That's what you need to do. Step 1. Case closed on that. So now let's move on here. First of all, thank you guys so much for continuing to support the podcast and the content going out. I've been loving the questions coming back, and I wanted to dig into a couple things that have been asked a couple times. The main questions I get are about the gear that we use to create content, which I think is an important subject. I think it'll be best explained in a YouTube video so I can kind of show some pictures and examples instead of just on this audio and very short form format. But I will go ahead and do that. Gear gets just tricky, because gear is, how do we say this? It's like you have two guys that talk really loud, You have guys that say that gear doesn't matter, and you have guys that are all about the gear. But both are wrong. It is a combination. You do need the right gear for the right job, but you also need all of the skills to use the gear. Buying the gear is not an instant fix to a quality issue, to a creative issue, to anything like that. That being said, I do love my gear. So we'll talk about it and we'll do that. But before we jump off today, I've talked a lot about the pillars and pieces content strategy. It's really easy to replicate to create consistent content. It's not the best strategy of all strategies, but if you want to create consistent content and you're struggling with that, the pillars and pieces method is, in my opinion, just the easiest way to get in there and just start consistently creating content. And then once you're in there and you're creating it, the sky's the limit. You're off to the races, okay? And pieces seems to be fine, but I've had a few questions about how do you define pillar content? Because content pillars, and it's really my fault, I kind of make up a lot of sayings that are already used, or I'm using the wrong term for something that already has a definition. Because content pillars can really mean themes, overall themes. If you're talking about like a content strategy and you're like 3 pillars, and one of them is like helping college graduates find a job. The other one is, creating entertaining content around job market. So various different things, whatever. But what we're talking about is a pillar that's just a big column, one big piece of content that you then chop up into the small pieces, right? And the pillar can exist on its own, but it does not have to. And the pillar also can be in a different media format and then turn into the other type for the pieces. So, hold on, let me take a drink for this one. It's a holiday party at the office. We got non-alcoholic beer on a Monday. Seems like a good fit. So, pillar content is anything that's deeply value rich. So something like this podcast here, this podcast is my pillar content. This is where I can get a lot of different ideas out. I can dig in as deep as I need to because it's over a long amount of time. We spend some time prepping for it. And then from there, we chop up all of these video pieces and we can release them as IG Reels, YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn Square videos that are up to 10 minutes, 15 minutes long, TikTok videos that can be anywhere from 15 seconds to 3 minutes long. And we just sort of use all of those pieces to keep that content consistent. And I mainly do it just as a way of testing this model and getting these ideas out here. I've waited a long time to express these kind of things. Now, this doesn't have to be the way that you do it. You can do this with just like a YouTube video in general. Although if you use a lot of graphics, like if you're a YouTuber but you don't prefer to have your face on camera and you use a lot of After Effects or text or things like that, that can be difficult to transform into a vertical format. I would say if you're creating that to use as a pieces, it'd be better to just export those in vertical, just build them in vertical from the jump, because that's how you're ideally going to have them consumed, right? Or make the whole video on YouTube and then cut those short individual ones once you've already put the ideas out and you've found the most eloquent way of saying it and you have all your assets and your graphics already there. It'll at least give you, a step in the right direction. But you can also do this with a blog post, so you could take a blog, do the research, write it out, and then you can release these blog paragraphs as LinkedIn posts, Facebook posts, tweets. You can record, audio clips. You can record video clips just based off of the blog. And, even though the blog might seem like a weak piece of pillar content, the point is it's a piece of content that took a while to make because it's value rich. And then you chop it into the pieces. Because having no pillar and just trying to do the pieces only, things can get real off track real fast. Also, the speed of idea to creation might be too short. You might not be putting out things of value. You might be just trying to rush to get something out, and it's not going to provide value to your target audience, which is not the point. As we talked about, content for content's sake is a trap. Avoid it. You want to make content that has value, because I don't need to tell you, this world is full of content. If you go on TikTok and start scrolling, you will never hit the end. You will never hit the end. There will never be no more. It will continue forever. And you are simply joining that conversation. So the more value you provide, the more likely that someone out there that's just scrolling away, looking for things that are going to educate them and entertain them and solve their problems, are going to stop and say, hey, I like this. This does something for me. That's what it's all about. So that's a little look into further what pillar content is. Now, another question is, okay, pillars and pieces, that's great. We're starting to get some feedback, but we're really wanting to take this to the next level. And instead of putting out one piece of pieces content, we want to put out 4 a day. And we want to do it on 3 platforms. And we want to have 3 pieces of pillar content. And they're all weekly. But I'm only one person. It's hard. If your job is to be, creator or whatever, which my job is not to sit on this and talk. But if your job is to do that, then you just work harder and harder and harder. But if you're ready to scale and you know that you've used up all of your available bandwidth as far as hours and energy that you have as a waking human being, the first person I would add to that team is a content editor. And this can, depending on the type of content that you make, if you make video content, a video editor. If you make podcast content, an audio editor. If you make blogs, editor. Because an editor is going to save a big portion of time. To all of my content creators out there, we know that the editing process is the largest, most time-consuming part of this content creation process. So by adding an editor, whether that be outsourced, whether that be someone that you bring into the team to work closely with, it's up to you. But that's going to save you the most time, which will then free you up more bandwidth to create more content. Now, if you're ready to scale a little further, I wouldn't necessarily add a second editor. Or if you are going to add a second editor, it's going to be for a different type of media, right? So if you already have a video editor, but you really need like a podcast producer that's different from that, that would be the way to go. But after that editing is done, then I would begin to scale into actual creatives, someone that's actually going to manage the cameras, the gear, the productions, the sets, the timing, the scheduling, the casting, locations, all the things that a production company would do. You're going to start building that around you. But I would keep it to yourself for as much bandwidth as you possibly have before beginning to scale. But you will have to scale eventually. Every company will need to become a media company if they want to keep growing. And you as a business owner can decide how far you want to grow. Not everyone needs to grow into this giant media conglomerate and have 100 million ARR. You can be very happy, having a partner or just yourself and just making enough money. And to do that, you really don't need a team. You really don't need super cinema quality gear to make it happen. You really don't. You just need to have a good message, put out value in whatever form, aligns with you creatively, and do it consistently. And know your audience. Actually, that's number 1, remember? Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate all the comments. Keep them coming. Drop me any questions in the DMs. You can find me over at TikTok at Mike.Heffron, Instagram at Mike Heffron. If you're listening on Apple, you can leave a review for this podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, please hit that follow button. It's going to do wonders for us. We're going to keep it going. If you enjoy this, if you find any value out of this, and you want to participate and get your question answered in a longer form, just let me know. Let me know. If it's something that piques my interest, we might just have something here. But my name is Mike. This is Be Bold and Everywhere. I'll see you. Happy Halloween.